management, now decentralization. So some provinces, they make in their local constitution or local law an Islamic or a Sharia regulation, you know. So reflecting what the Quran and also the Prophet teaching us, there is an issue how to harmonize between inclusiveness and exclusiveness, and if we may say that we want to transform the society into an ideal Islamic society, and how we should start, because implementation of the Sharia in some provinces in Indonesia is really debatable, because when they say that, okay, we want, for example, we conduct Islamic ethics based on the Sharia by the state force, and actually also undermining the human rights, the rights on some minority groups, not only Christians and the others, but also some other mazahib that does not belong to the mainstream, like the Shafi'i mazhab, so it is debatable. So my question is, if for example that we are going to go to that ideal Islamic society, how we should start, and who is going to start? Who is that? If there's certain of people, who are they? Okay, and whether we have that qualification to start, and also that how to harmonize between individual efforts and the people efforts in the sense of like a state force or law force or something. Thank you.
Rebecca.
Thank you very much for a very interesting, logical and honest discussion. I just have some questions on tafsir. Well, it's a few points. So the first one is about the balanced community, because I know according to some tafsirs that they say this refers to Imams of Ahlul Bayt. The Imams of Ahlul Bayt say that this refers to us. We are the moderate community. So I was wondering if that's just one reading of this ayah, and also the issue of the verse that says, so that you may be witnesses over other people. What I've read is the Imams also said that we are the witnesses. So I was wondering how the Muslims as people are also witnesses, or whether this also refers to the general Muslim community as well. Also, this issue of we know there is a lot of division among people, and even a lot of hatred among different camps, which is a real disease, I think. But this division tends to arise from people's desire to disassociate themselves from those that they see as doing wrong. So on the one hand, we are encouraged to be in the company of good people who do right, and to disassociate ourselves from people who do wrong. But because of this issue of disassociation from those who do wrong, everyone is disassociating from each other. So how can we resolve this? On the other hand, there is the issue of tabarra. So we want a united society based on brotherhood, and based on which is a very big topic, brotherhood. But on the other hand, within our society, there are those who are, actively trying to engage in evil or division or fitna, or so again, how do we? We all want some kind of unity, and we all want to disassociate ourselves from those who do wrong. But as a result of that, we're splitting into camps and factions, and everyone thinks the other one is doing wrong, and we all have to do tabarra towards each other. So I don't know what the solution could be.
Thank you. Yes? Thank you very much for your useful and inspiring lecture. I have got two questions. First one is very short, because I just want to know the exact number of the ayah we have sent the prophets in order to establish justice. And the second one is about the method of establishing such an ideal Islamic community. As far as you've said, we cannot witness it even in the time of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And you have mentioned that just establishing Islamic law, it's important, but it's not enough. So I would like to know which are the methods we should implement in order to establish such a society. Thank you.
Sorry, could you repeat the last point? I was making note of your second.
Yes, the second point is that you mentioned the idea by Imam Khomeini that we should firstly purify ourselves in order to understand Quran properly, and that establishing law and law system, Islamic judicial system, is very important, but this is not the only method that will lead to establishing an ideal Islamic society. And I would like to question you about the other methods of establishing this society, implementing these social ideals of Islam, according to your point of view.
Yes.
Dr. Shamali, thank you for your excellent lecture. I was deeply inspired by your lecture, not only intellectually, but also spiritually. I think Islamic ethics is very, very good. But I wonder why other people don't know about Islamic ethics. I mean the Western people particularly, but I don't mean people here. The reason might be, I think, that jurists, Islamic jurists in the past failed in integrating Islamic ethics into Islamic law, Islamic jurisprudence. So I'd like to hear Dr. Shumari's thought on this. Thank you very much.
Brother. Thank you very much. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I'm very glad to have a meeting with Dr. Shamali as well as his excellent lectures. Give us more religious atmosphere under this our theme of seminar, Intellectuality and Spirituality. In reference to your topic, social aspect of Islamic spirituality, so I'm trying to relate the social ethic, we can say that, and spirituality. You said that from the beginning until now, in Islamic history, we see that the individual-oriented ethic is much more influential. I mean, much more implemented by Muslim society. They just concerned with how to have personal salvation in hereafter, for example. Like I also now studying Ghazali. He just concerned how to be a good man in individual dimension without social dimension. So, but this ethics also is inspired by spirituality. They believe in God, they believe in hereafter, they believe in prophet, they read the Quran and something like that. So also this kind of spirituality. So do you think that this kind of ethic, what we call individual-oriented ethic, is or has close relation with a mode of spirituality. I remember what Ayatollah Arafi in the first day in this seminar, he talked about different kinds of spirituality. So, what your opinion about this? So, is this ethics related to a kind of spirituality? And the second one, about this, I go forward to more reflective, the philosophical reflection about the relationship between individual and community, being good man and being good man in society. You said that it is possible to be pious man in bad society, or you said to be a wife of Pharaoh, a pious woman, pious wife in the bad society, in bad communities. Do you think that the relationship between individual and community is existential one or only accidental? If you said that, it is just accidental, because we can be good men without having good relation with society, with responsibility in society. If we refer, for example, the good poetry of Iqbal, individual is like a drop of water. A drop of water is nothing without ocean, he said. A drop of water will be water if in the ocean. So individual we need society to be good also to good individual. Mutahari also emphasized the necessity of having good relation with our society to be a good man, to be pious man. So, yeah. And the third one, Professor Dr. Jalali has raised this question about is Islamic society is realist or only utopian? Yeah, yeah, because in that story. Thank you very much.
Yes, please.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr.
Alaikum
Shmali.
assalam.
Thank you very much for your talk. It was very inspiring. And my question is taking on from the idea you spoke about the Medina, the city of Medina, and this perhaps over-romanticizing on the part of the Muslims of a state and its function. But I was wondering if you could comment on another time in history which tends to have a lot of material drawn to it, in it being a city of learning. I'm talking about Al-Andalus. Al-Andalus between the 9th century to 12th century. It was a great center for a lot of social cohesion, where there were Jews, Christians, and Muslims who came to learn, and in many ways it became the beginning of the Renaissance for Europe, and there's been much literature on this. So aside from the small political fragmentation which led to the fall of Al-Andalus, I was wondering how you would contextualize this in relation to your discourse on ethics.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes, I had a clarification question. I think you started with a reference to the Islamic teaching. If I got it right, that as we draw closer to the end of time, the sort of percentage of the good people will increase. Did I understand it right?
Not percent.
No, I mean the number. I mean no. Okay, yeah. All right, that's basically the question I had.
Madam.
I have. No, it doesn't work.
Should be united.
I have two questions. One is about the structure of the ideal society. If there is any model or in terms of hierarchy. So if you can describe the organization of the society. And the second one is also about the end of the time. As I understand correctly, it has to be a society not just of a good man, but a perfect man. So it's a little bit connected with the idea of a perfect man. Is that right or not? And does it mean that the society has to be a society of saints? and does it mean that it will lead to the end of the time?
Questions, because I just asked with reference to you because there were, I think, one or two questions more. One question was, pertaining to, the possibility of any society, okay, and especially, Muslim society. Is it possible for the Muslim society divide of, politics or divide of, Islamic State? So what I understood, throughout the debate is that, this debate was presuming the very fact that ideal Muslim society could exist without the politics or without the political, Islamic State. So could you explain this, number one? Number two, I think the other, presumption that I noted, and I would like, your view on that. That you said, something like that, law cannot make society an ideal society. That was the bottom line. So, law and the spirituality has been taken as two separate things. So isn't that, they are related with form and substance relationship, that law is always constituted carrying certain spirit. So how do you, relate that? So far, these two questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think Dr. Shumali is facing different questions from different angles. Perhaps we should have chosen the other way, that one by one. But now that already is done, I think he is clever enough to categorize himself. Thank you. The floor is yours, Dr. Shumali.
Half an hour. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you very much for your questions and comments, and I'm grateful. The point raised by Dr. Jalali is a very important point, and I anticipated this, and I'm happy that he raised this point. Because, some people sometimes may say that, okay, if there is such a thing that has never happened, so either what is the benefit of that, or, for example, as he said, we may take it as an excuse so that we justify ourselves. First of all, that was my honest understanding. So if this is my understanding, no matter what would be the outcomes or what people would do as an excuse, when you have this understanding, what can you do? When I read with care, and think and reflect on teachings of Islam, and I don't find this, to best of my knowledge, available, so I have to share this with people like you. Of course, I don't share it with everyone, but I share it with people like you, because you are also honest and sincere people. So that is a secondary issue, how we should solve the problems and misunderstandings. But this is my honest understanding, and I think this is something that if is ever achieved, humanity will never go for anything else. I believe that definitely that would be the last experience of humanity. If humanity really sees an Islamic society, never that society will be trying any other thing, and neither nor other societies would go for something else. The fact that that society is not available, it means that it was never achieved. If it wasn't achieved, no one go for something else. And this is, something which is going to happen. Definitely is going to happen, and that would be the final station for humanity, that such society will be established. and everyone will benefit, not only Muslims, everyone will feel member of that. And when that لِيَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ, so that people establish justice. When people reach that level of maturity and understanding, that they say we want social justice, we don't let anyone to treat others, without respect and honor and without giving them their due right, I think humanity will never then go for another, lower state again. So this is my honest understanding, but maybe I am wrong, and maybe, you can correct me. I ask Allah to guide me. And regarding that excuse, I think, indeed, what I said would not leave any excuse for anyone to say that we should be happy with the status quo or, with what we have. Indeed, what I'm saying is makes it very clear for everyone that we should always try to become better. There is no reason why we cannot achieve this. This is not ideal in the sense that it's not achievable. It's quite achievable. It's unfortunately, most of the time, because of, I think, not receiving enough attention. Because most of the time, we think that it's good just to be a good person. Even if you look at the emphasis which is put by preachers, normally is on being a good person. But if they emphasize on being good members of society, then I think would make a big difference. And I personally believe that this must start. Inshallah, when we talk about wilaya, we will have relevant discussion. I believe that we should start this from ourselves. If a group of people who share this understanding start establishing this among themselves, to be very close, to be united, to be truthful, to be just, to be ready to sacrifice for the benefit of others, definitely other people will take this as their role model and quickly will be spread. One of the things that I think made the Prophet very successful, and I don't want to undermine the great success of the Prophet. And what I said, it was not that, na'uzubillah, God forbid, the Prophet was not successful. That is something that, as I said, must be achieved by people. Not only by the Prophet. You can have a perfect leader like all the Prophets, despite their differences, but they were all perfect leaders. But when people are not ready, then they cannot establish that. So, what was one of the great reasons for the success of the Prophet was that to a limited extent, he managed to establish this among some people. Not all people of Medina. I was, saying that Medina, I think, was not yet in the state of ideal society. It's too early to expect that in such a short time something like this can happen. And especially when you see what, happens also later. So, but at least there were people who among themselves, not as a system, but among themselves were really very close. رُحَمَاءُ بَيْنَهُمْ. They were ready to die for each other. They were ready to give their life for serving the truth. But this was not established as a system. But having them was enough to encourage many, many people to come and embrace Islam. So, I think if this society is established, then definitely everyone would love this and benefit from this. And therefore the beauty is that it no longer would be Islamic society. It would be ideal human society. This is one of the great things that we find in the teaching of the Prophet, that for him Islamic values were human values. Unfortunately, we are not very good in doing this. But the Prophet, if there is time, maybe I explain this verse that يَذَرُ عَنْهُمْ إِصْرَهُمْ وَالْأَغْلَالَ الَّتِي كَانَتْ عَلَيْهِمْ يُحِلُّ لَهُمُ الطَّيِّبَاتِ يُحَرَّمُ عَلَيْهِمُ الْخَبَائِثِ. Everything is a logic that every human being understands and appreciates. And this is maybe what we can talk about. In any case, I think we should not take this as an excuse to sit indifferent. Indeed, this must give us more courage to move towards establishing this. We can start it from a few people who want to establish this. Maybe we can have a small group working for establishment of this among themselves, and then we can share this with other people. And I don't think this is something which is not practical. I think it's very practical. This is something which is compatible with human nature. This is something that you would find that many people would support you if you can, really show this, not just speak about this. The other thing is that about inclusiveness and exclusiveness. I have this understanding that, and this is what you mentioned and somehow related to what Sister Rebecca mentioned, how we should adjust ourselves to a condition in which we have also people who are not doing well, people who are not, good, and you want to distance or disassociate yourself from them. Does it lead to a kind of exclusiveness or hatred or something like this? I have this idea, inshallah, in the lecture on Velaya will become very obvious. I think many things relate to remaining part of my lecture, that we don't have exclusiveness in the way that it's normally understood. That you divide people into two groups and say, these are my friends and I have all the relation with them. These are my enemies and I boycott them completely. I don't think this is the way it works. My understanding is that you have to be inclusive, but you distinguish between people with whom you can have more in common, so you become closer to them, more united with them, and with the people that you share less, then your unity with them would be less. So sometimes I use this example. If you have, for example, pool, and you throw a stone, then there are some circles, of waves which will be formed around that stone, when hit the water. These circles become wider and wider, but weaker and weaker. When you are closer to the center, it's much more stronger. The height may be more. When it is widened, then it becomes weaker. So, I think we have the same model. We start with unity of God, and then unity with the people who have the same understanding of everything like us, whether it is theology, morality, even practical policies. Then it widens. It includes people who are not that close to us, but with them still we have something to share. For example, you have people of your family, then extended family, then your community, then all nation, Islamic, for example, nation, then all believers in God, then all believers in moral values. So I think you, as long as you are concerned, because you are servant of God, you can so much widen your heart that you can accommodate every person, which is a creation of God. But the problem is that there are people who don't want this. Look at the Prophet. The Prophet was وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. As far as the Prophet was concerned, he was sent mercy for all. He didn't say, I am mercy for only my own people or Muslims or only who believe in God. Rahmatan lil alamin. But then there are people who don't want this mercy to reach alamin. Then, with all sadness and pain, you have to reduce the harm that they cause. That's it. We don't want to uproot them. We don't want to destroy them. Just we want to, let them become quiet so that there is no disturbance. Otherwise, we are inclusive. You, as a teacher, even if you have naughty students who don't listen, you as a teacher, you don't want to exclude them. If you love teaching, and I'm sure you have experience of teaching, as a teacher, you want everyone to benefit. Even sometimes with those who are, troublemakers, you want to spend more time. For you, all your students are important. For you as a mother or father, all your children are important. Of course, those who are very good, very thankful, honest, maybe you love them more, but maybe you spend more time with those who are troublemakers. So I think we as Muslims or Christians, Jews, or if we believe in any, religion, I think we must not limit ourselves to any group of people.